Welcome to Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. We start off in Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall feel one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Colossians 3:21. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. And in Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, pick up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. A lot of people says it's none of our business. We need to just be quiet. All these other kind of things, they're wrong. Hello there, Chris. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Hope you're doing well. So today, I figured we'll talk about the therapy, in which it's hard to talk about. Let me get my notes back out. Need to turn on this light. Sorry about that. How are you doing today, Chris? Hello, everybody that is listening. This is Shameful Family Secret Shorn. This is what they named it. Hello, Eric. Hello, Danielle. It took a lot of grueling therapy to get to the root of the sexual abuse. So when I began therapy, I had already known about some prior stories of sexual abuse. It took different therapies until Dr. Jack Kemp became my psychiatrist. He reminded me of Mario from Mario Brothers, the video games. I had already uncovered some of the shameful family secrets. I call it this because it had been hidden and taboo to speak about. Before beginning therapy, I began having a lot of flashbacks and nightmares. I already remembered that I had to, every time I went to go lay down, even though I was exhausted, I really thought I could go to sleep. And I lay down to go to sleep, but instead, right when I closed my eyes, I was seeing these dark figures coming at me. I was seeing it. I was having these memories, these flashbacks, and I would jump back up because I didn't want to go to sleep. I knew that if I fell asleep, I was going to have this horrendous nightmare about whatever, right? So I would jump back up, and it went like that for a while, and it was so difficult getting over that part and not the lack of sleep and stuff. And I can remember before I even started therapy, and the insurance company was saying that psychological help was more like a luxury, that it was not a necessity. So I could not go to get help in that way, to talk to a therapist or anything to try to. Um, they looked at it almost like if same way that they look at chiropractic. Um, they look at that as a luxury. It's not a necessity. Um, and of course, cosmetic. Uh, they look at that as a luxury. But there are some people that's got a lot of scars on their body that stem from the past abuse. To them, that is not a luxury. To them, that is a healing thing, and to please help out the person to feel better about themselves and to go get that pain of what their injury, whatever they sustained. People need to realize that. But it was so hard, going to bed every time and just popping back up. What I started doing at night, because I would go and watch TV or I would clean the house, right? Um, but doing cleaning it kept my husband up, so I just go in there and watch TV. And at times when I tried to sleep, um, he would hit me and said, "Go watch TV, and I better not catch you sleeping. If I catch you sleeping, you're in trouble." Okay, I had two boys in school that were going to school. I think that they were still in school at this. They were in school at this time. One of them might not have been. I had two kids that I babysat. That three, sometimes it was three. So I was worn out, you know. Plus, I mowed the yard and helped mow my mother-in-law's yard in the lot. I helped plant the garden and pick the garden. If you lived in the country, y'all all know how big of a work that is, right? So yes, I was exhausted. You know, there's a lot to run in a household. And I woke up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with my husband pounding my face because I fell asleep. But I was tired, y'all. I needed to sleep, right? So, of course, what I started doing then, um, I started going to the Waffle House and going to drink tea all night till it was almost time that I knew my husband would leave to go to work. Then I'd come back and make sure to get my kids ready for school, send them off to school, try to lay down. So this was a it was hard to live like this with the beatings and whenever you try to get rest and it's kind of bad when even the police knew that he was beating me and said he could hit me all he liked as long as he didn't kill me. The elder at church said, "Well, you know, you gotta let him go ahead and kill you. It's your only way to heaven, okay?" So it's like, what do I do? And luckily, I had a neighbor and her husband down the road. I would go there sometimes and we would talk about the Bible. She would show me in the Bible how a husband is supposed to treat their wife and vice versa. And that helped me out a lot towards the end. That helped me to make that decision that he's the one breaking the bonds. The only way for the way the church that I was going to saw that divorce was spiritually okay was if the uh, an affair, right? But it does say in the Bible how a husband is supposed to cherish a wife and treat it like part of the body, his own part of the body. And that's the same way about the wife. You know, you're in union with one another, and you're supposed to respect and love and cherish one another. Okay. So, but that wasn't going on in my relationship. So when I started having a lot of these flashbacks, he would actually be hitting me. Even his mom had two other daughters and a son that lived with them. And if they were mean to me and I wanted to leave to take my kids away from them playing with their kids, I didn't want my kids in that hostile environment, okay? So I would say, "Come on, kids, let's go." So the other adults would go up there and they would encircle me and they would beat me really bad. But found out years later that the neighbor did call the police and the police never came. They didn't care. But anyway, one of the elders from church said, since they look at it as a luxury, I'll go ahead and I'll pay because my agoraphobia, the flashbacks after having a hysterectomy, after that doctor had brought up the fact that I had to been sexually abused a lot, that opened up Pandora's box for me. Okay, I didn't know really a lot of things, and it just started flailing at me these and hurtling at me like stones. You know, these dark images and these feelings, and it's like every time I was even started being afraid to even walking out my front door, I felt like I was going to be attacked. You know, it's like it's hard to describe. It's not like it was irrational because even at times I did have a peeping Tom staring in my window. I saw him, so it's like, yeah, I knew somebody was out there sometimes. So I knew somebody was out there one time when me and my son we fell asleep when the other son was at school. and I had a fan in my bedroom window, and uh, I guess I was lightly asleep or whatever, but I didn't wake up all the way. And I heard somebody at the window saying, "Wake up, pretty bird! Wake up, pretty bird! It's morning time! Wake up!" And then I heard him say, trying to convince my son, saying, "Well, open the door to ride the white horse. Open the door. You want to ride a white horse? You want to ride a white horse?" And then I finally woke up. Luckily, he did not cut into the screen. He did not, because the window was open, but it had a screen right there. Okay, but he did not cut the screen. He did not get the fan out, or I would have been doomed. Thank God he didn't do that. Right. So anyway, I woke up and I spoke to my son. I said, "Was there anybody by the window?" And he said, "Yes, Mom." I said, "What did he say?" He said, "Hey, pretty bird. Hey, pretty bird." So he was validating what I was thinking I was dreaming, but it was actually going on. But I had trouble waking on up, you know. And it makes me sad that my son. But in a way, it might have been worse if I did wake up. No telling what he would have done, right? So I knew that I had a problem, but our insurance didn't cover the psychological visits at the time. So the elder at church, and I named him Mr. Pincher, but somebody gave me advice recently that I needed to start writing down on a sheet of paper all the correct names and what these per said people done, what they're responsible for doing, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Okay, I do. And then to give out to different people just in case something was to happen to me. And hello, everyone that's at Facebook as well. So this Mr. Pincher knew a therapist who would see me. He paid the therapist. I call him Mr. Sam Saber because with two boys, a house payment, and normal bills, we couldn't afford it. Of course, not with the insurance not paying it as well. The psychologist had an office at his home. He informed my husband Jeffrey and Mr. Pincher agreed to let him do unconventional therapy. Does anybody know what unconventional therapy is? It's not regular therapy. It's supposed to be therapy that goes outside the norms to try to help somebody to heal. But this guy was not doing it that way that would help me to heal. He was victimizing me worse. And whenever I told them about it, my husband and Mr. Pincher. That's okay. We agreed that he could do unconventional therapy. So it's easier for me sometimes when I open my book and read out some of the stuff because I might miss some of the information that I had previously jotted down. So I'll go ahead and say that he always made sure that his office door was locked. Even in his home, he had a wife, but he locked the door and then he hid the key where and I would not be able to get it to get myself out of there. I would sit and stare at the clock. I didn't know how to express how I felt. My feelings mattered. Um, Let me see what I had wrote there. My feelings never mattered before, so all I knew was fine, okay, sad, and happy. Right? Most of the hour was filled with me watching the clock. So Mr. Saber decided we would wrestle so I could get out some of my hostilities. He won, and he had my arms pinned to the floor. I yelled in pain. He placed his head on my chest. I yelled, "Get off of me!" Mr. Saber said, "An old man needs to rest." I said, "Not on my breast." I kept fighting, trying to get up. His wife heard the noise and knocked on the door, wondering if everything was okay. She heard me scream out twice to get off of me. He informed me to be quiet. I was a master at being quiet. Since he did this, I refused to ever wrestle with him again. I felt I was violated. I told my husband and Mr. Pincher about this. They might have thought it was okay to do this since he told them at the beginning he had to do some unconventional therapy with me. Hindsight 2020, I wish to gosh that when she came and knocked, I'm grown enough to know that, oh, why? I could yell, and say, he won't get off of me. Please help me. I wish I had been strong enough to not go and adhere to him telling me to be quiet, right? But that was a norm. I was so used and conditioned, and I was locked right there, and it would be harder for her to get in there to help me. What was he going to do to me? Could he possibly harm me more or whatever was my thinking, right? I felt I didn't have a choice but to go back to therapy with him. Mr. Saber informed me that I had agoraphobia. I had to go places with him and stay in the car no matter how sick at my stomach I felt. It did help me to be able to go shopping, to restaurants, and do errands without having bad panic attacks. Used to, I'd go to the grocery store and just being around people. And of course, I didn't realize that, but some of these people were probably some of the people that was in with the child pornography. And that might have been what kind of made me have a flashback or an eerie feeling because this was the same town in the same area which I was victimized, right? Mr. Saber spoke with the local college to let me take a test for my GED. I was shocked at the results. I was always considered dumb. I found out I made one of the highest grades in the entire state of Alabama. This made me wonder, what if I wasn't hampered in school? Where would I be at the moment? Mr. Saber then moved to an office in the college's old dorm room. He would lock the door using a key. It made me nervous being locked there and not being able to leave until he unlocked the door. When he had to go to the bathroom, which was still co ed style, he unlocked the door. I was made to be in the bathroom with him. He used his stall so I didn't see him. We would have therapy and I would be ready to go. Mr. Sable would force me to sit on his lap. He would ask me what we did in therapy. I would tell him he knew what we did, but he said he wouldn't let me go until we discussed the therapy for the day. I was told no, what I believed happened didn't. I had to stay in his lap until I agreed to say what he said happened. Mr. Saber wanted to discuss some things I didn't feel comfortable discussing. In one assignment, Mr. Saber told me to go shower my husband and bathe him. Always wanted to do he always wanted me to do things to my husband, just was the receiver. In therapy, he asked if I did as I was told, and if I showered my husband, I had to give him details. He knew that my stepmom used to hold my head down in a sink full of water, okay? He knew that I had trouble with showers and getting water across my face, okay? He knew all that, but yet he told me I need to shower him and get down in the shower and do these sexual things to my husband. And he wanted me to come back and give him details of what I did. And he was always upset because I didn't do it and I did not go and come back and tell him what I did. Because I think a relationship between a husband and wife, what you do sexually, what you do together, it's nobody else's business but you and your spouses, right? I don't need to go to this guy and tell him what kind of things me and my husband did erotically. Our relationship was our relationship. I felt that that he invaded my privacy. He was always disappointed because I didn't do all the sexual things he told me to do with my husband, Jeffrey. I hated to be forced to sit on his lap. At times it was noticeable. The wet spot on Mr. Saber's pants. I hated sitting there. This wasn't therapy. He violated me worse. When I told my husband about it, Jeffrey responded, "So?" Mr. Saber decided to begin using hypnosis to get to the root of the problems. Before I went to his office for hypnosis, I researched how to be hypnotized but not fully under someone's control. I distrusted Mr. Saber. I was a skeptic. But Mr. Saber had hypnotized me on several occasions. The last time I saw him, I had refused to come back to him for psychological aid because of his actions. I was wearing a shirt which had about 3 buttons. He clipped the microphone to that area. I went ahead as I was inwardly thinking if he does anything inappropriate, I would wake up from the hypnotized state. We had been talking for about 5 minutes when I felt his hand right on my left nipple area. The microphone wasn't at this place, nor his hand at the microphone. See, it was in the center area was where the microphone was because my buttons was in the center. Okay, it had two buttons in the center. I came out of the dazed state saying, "You touched my left bosom." I made sure to not go fully into your hypnotic state. I got up and tried to walk. My walking was unbalanced. Mr. Sabins said, "Let's sit down and talk about this." I said, "There's nothing to talk about. The truth is, you touching me is wrong." He said, "I was fixing the microphone." I said, "Your hand was nowhere close to the microphone. You better unlock the door and let me out." Mr. Sabins said, "Not until we talk." I asked, "Do you want me to scream?" He said, "No, but if the cops come, they will believe me." I said, "Well, they might believe you, but I'll make sure that this is known. You have touched me wrongly in different ways from the beginning. This type of behavior is of a pedophile or rapist. You are a therapist. Therapists are not supposed to do as you did. Plus, you locked me in and refused to let me go. Never again." So Mr. Saber unlocked the door so I could leave. I took a few minutes to get my body to react correctly so I could go. He kept insisting we talk it through. Mr. Saber said, "See you next week." I replied, "No, you won't. I don't care if Jeffrey tries to bring me back, I will refuse to get into the car. If anything is said, God knows the truth. I have him on my side." I walked to my car with a hurried gait. I sat in the car and began to smile. I was proud of myself for finally sticking up for me. So, what do y'all think about that therapist? That was the very first therapist I went to. I want to hear y'all's take on it. What y'all think about my ex husband agreeing that he could do these sexual things to me and it was okay? Even the elder at church was condoning it. So to me, it was almost like he was paying him to violate me. Okay, that's all it felt like. He was being paid to violate me, instead of helping me. So the next one happened to be our preacher at church. So because we still didn't have therapy, so he agreed to see me. So Lyle Duvall, and I will go ahead and say that therapist's name, even though, you know, because he was not a good one, and he was wanting to see my husband, ex-husband, was going to send my son to him after the divorce, and I pitched a fit and said, "No, don't you ever, ever, ever." I said, "I don't need our son violated or nothing. I cannot trust him." And I will expose that name. His name is Jim Gardley, and he was in Athens, Alabama. I don't care. I'm saying the name out there. It's a fact. His name is James Gardley. Okay, so do not trust him. Okay, and if you've been sexually exploited by him, you can use my name and say, "Well, he did this to me too." Okay, I'm another voice, and I'll be your voice. Okay, Gardley, Girdley. Okay, so the next one was the preacher. Lyle Ball was a preacher of the church I attended. He agreed to see me for therapy since my insurance didn't take effect yet. At first, I felt like I could trust the preacher. Sometimes I would show up just to nap on one of the benches since I had trouble sleeping at home. I woke up several times and saw Lyle Ball watching me sleep. And the reason why I stopped therapy with him is because one time, yeah, I was wanting to do something to myself. I had a pair of scissors and I wanted to die. I couldn't stand the nightmares and I couldn't stand going back home and being beat. I couldn't stand that the elder was saying it's best to let my husband kill me. I couldn't stand the fact that the police was letting my husband beat me and the others beat me. I didn't know how to take it all, okay? So I was like, and I could not stand the frequent flashbacks I was having that was causing a big turmoil in my mind, okay? Um, no matter what, it's like, and plus, anytime, like I would tell my husband, need another quarter to go for the kids' break money or lunch money, and he would hit me. He'll beat me for that. If my kids needed a pair of sweatpants because they're going to be in a play, the sweatpants cost about $5. He would get the opposite color of what was needed, and I said, well, it really needed to be this other color, and he told me no. For me to go to the store, country store, and get dye, he refused to let me go change the pants out, which was kind of stupid because all I had to do was take the thing and just swap them out, but instead pay like $6, $7 at the country store for some dye to try to dye the bleached black pants to do it white. Hey there, Carlene. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Good morning to you as well. Good to see you. So anyway, I had them put the scissors down on the table on the desk, okay, and I was fine. Thought about I'm not going to do it. I got to be strong. I got to put my faith in God, and so I put it down. Without him saying anything. The next thing I know, even though the scissors were already on the desk, okay, they're already put down, I was no longer thinking about hurting myself, right? I started because all of a sudden had a little joke like, God's here with me, right? God's going to help me through it. The next thing I know, he pushes me back on the desk and he lays on top of my body. And he tries to kiss me and stuff and trying to get me and says, where you want it? Where you want it? Where you want it? Try to kiss me and make out with me, right? Like, get off of me, get off me, get off me. He got off of me, and I got up. Got to get my bait because when I get stressed out, I get dizzy and something like that. So when I stood up, I'd hold on to the desk a minute to get my bearings a little bit. Because my mind was like swimming because I could not believe he just attacked me, and I felt like he was going to rape me. Seriously, okay. So I went ahead and went to my car. I sat in there and I locked the doors. Okay. He came out, knocked on the window. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And I said, no, I don't want to talk. So he got in his car and drove away. I knew where he was going. He was going to that same elders who allowed that therapist to do what he was doing sexually to me, right? So I said, I better get out of here before they do something bad to me, right? So I said, well, just go down this road. The very first house, she's a friend of mine. I'm going to go to her house. I went and knocked, and we talked outside. And so she said, yes, that is attack. Later on, that elder did reprimand me. He said, well, when you tried to get the knife, the gun, scissors away from you, you tried to stab yourself. I said, no, the scissors were already there. He called me a liar. How does he know? He was not there, right? How does he know? He said, but the preacher won't never sleep with nobody. But guess what? They ended up finding out a couple weeks later that he did end up having sex with another lady. And him and his wife, I believe, divorced because he did go and sleep somewhere. So you said the elder said he was never going to do something like that, but there was a proof behind him doing that, right? When he went and did something with another lady. I can't help but wonder if he had attacked her as well, right? So yeah, so it's kind of hard for me to go to that church, and I was told that I'm such a bad person. It's best to let my husband kill me. I was told that anytime I went to that church and tried to um, like they would have an announcement about a girl coming out of the hospital and she needed compassion and people to show that they cared about her. So I thought, well, I'm going to tell her that I'm praying for her, right? So I did that, and then I got home, and then I get a call from an elder. This was two different elders, but the one elder that paid for the therapy with that other therapist, that touched me wrong, okay? Um, and the elder that said it's best to let my husband kill me, that's a total different elder, okay? But anyway, when I was going through this, oh shoot, it was so much hard. Um, But the phone call went like this. Hey, we let you go to church, but you are only to come to church. You are not to talk to anybody. You're to go there, you're to sit there, you're to worship, but you are not under any circumstances to even say hello to anybody. We allow you to go to this church, but don't talk to anyone. So I got reprimanded for even speaking to anybody if I went to that church. So soon I stopped going to church, and then they started calling, "Why ain't you going to church?" Why would I be a member of that, right? Why would I do that, right? Think about it. If I don't have a voice, if I'm not supposed to speak, I definitely ain't going to worship God in your church. If it's not in one accord, it's not all together, right? So thankfully, um, insurance came into effect, and so I was able to see a psychiatrist. Oh man, I loved him to death. He was a godsend. Oh man, he's passed away now, and he was a godsend. Jeffrey's insurance finally covered psychological appointments, so then I was referred to Dr. Kemp's office. I visited him for the evaluation and the treatment. Since he's passed away, I can use his name now. His name, oh man, now I got to Dr. Canan. But I call him Dr. Kemp in here. He was short in stature. His persona reminded me of Mario from Mario Brothers video games. Dr. Kemp helped me more than any other person had. You see, he didn't violate me, and he believed my stories. I asked, "Why do you believe me?" He replied, "Because when I ask you a question, you answer right away. A lot of people who answer quickly, the stories do not fit in with what they said prior. Although your story sounds hard to believe, I can tell you are being honest." I was shocked. I could not believe someone finally believed me. Dr. Camp began to turn my psychological health around. I still had so many gaps in my memory, right? So with Dr. Camp, I did not watch the clock. I informed him about my prior therapist, Sam Saber. Dr. Camp tried to convince me to take Sam to court since he was inappropriate with me. I spoke with Jeffrey, my husband, about Dr. Kemp's suggestion. He refused to support me and proved to me that he cared about me, knowing Mr. Saber violated me. Reason, I guess y'all can figure out why I named him Saber in the book because it was like a knife to my back, right? Jeffrey replied, "I do not want trouble." I quipped, "I don't want trouble either. I know he did some things to me that were not right for a therapist to do." Then he replied, "Sam Saber told me and Mr. Peacher he had to do some unconventional therapy to you to bring things out, to heal you." I replied, "That does not mean he can touch my private areas or even have semen on his pants. He kept the door locked even in his home to make sure no one came in. His wife tried to come into the room when I kept yelling for him to get off of me. I was silent when she tried because he told me to hush. How I wish I would have yelled, saying, 'Call the police. He won't remove his head from my breast. You think that's okay?' Jeffrey added coldly, 'Yes, a conventional therapy.' I walked away feeling like a whipped dog. My head was hanging low for having to remain silent, although I was violated. I was thinking I was treated like a prostitute. You as Mr. Pincher paid him, and he would do anything he wanted with me. I sighed as I knew Sam Saber did as he pleased without any repercussions. I kept wondering how come no one cared about me. They even berated me. It was just more control. I gave Dr. Kemp the sad news. Dr. Kemp replied, "Well, you can do it without Jeffrey at your side." Incredulously, I retorted, "I can't without support. I would be hounded at home a lot from the elders and Jeffrey. I'm sorry, but thanks for caring." Oh, somebody, can you get that person off, please? Do what? I don't know what you're saying all this, Wesley. But yeah, we are believers in God. So you need to stop that. We're talking about the therapy. Where's my mods at? I'm not rejecting Jesus. See what I mean, y'all? Oh my gosh. Can y'all believe this? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. One of my mods. Please get rid of him. He's not speaking about God. He's not speaking about God. He's not God. Jesus is God's son. Okay. Okay, hold on a minute. He's judging me without even knowing. Well, he came in here to disrupt what I have to say. That's all he's doing. He's being a disruption. Disruption. Excuse me. What I have to say. Okay, hold on a minute. He's being a disruption. Okay. Remove. There we go. There we go. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I can't believe he's coming in here. So anyway, where was I at, y'all? Jeffrey Addy told me, yes, unconventional therapy. Incredulously, I retorted, I can't without support. I will be hounded at home a lot from my elders and Jeffrey. I am sorry, but thanks for caring. And we are of God here, so you don't need to come in here and judge and say that I'm not of God. How dare you? You're not speaking from God. You come in here and being judgmental, Wesley. One visit with the Dr. Jack Camp, my world seemed to turn upside down. I could not believe the flashes of memories. Devastating is not even close to what I was feeling. I was seeing Sue hold me down. Part of my body was in the living room, while my upper part was in the dining room. She firmly held my arms down, but barked, raped me. It proceeded to another flash in which I was outside, and Sue was building a huge bonfire. Y'all, this will be hard to read. This will be hard for y'all to take, okay? Well, Sue was building a huge bonfire. That was normal in the South, so I thought nothing of it until I saw the tires in and around the ready to light fire. I asked, why are fire tires in the fire? Why are so many? Sue replied, so the fire would continue to burn. Innocently, I did not understand why she would want a fire burning straight for days. I was afraid something was going to catch fire. Some small embers might blow with the wind and catch some of the 18 plus acres ablaze. It's 22 acres in all, so that's why I said 18 plus, okay? Maybe someone kept a watch on it. I don't know. So many splotches of memory. Maybe I shouldn't remember it all. All of a sudden, I was exasperated. Everything just flitting through, yet hurling at me like rocks. This is part I have to read from the book when it's talking about the this thing this one story. I replied, I don't feel so good. May I lay down? Mr. Dr. Camp replied, if you feel like it. I felt faint. Dr. Jack Camp replied, small breaths. It's okay. Take your time. All of a sudden, I had a burst of energy with a disbelief of a memory. I jumped up. I stated, oh no, that it isn't right. Why? Why? I sobbed uncontrollably as I described to Dr. Jack Camp, and now you. My deepest nightmare, my greatest horror. I saw Mama Sue make me lie down on the floor. I always did as Mama Sue said. I was her robot. I feared her. Sue had a white metal coat hanger or the end of a fly swatter. I was naked on the kitchen floor, and she was in between my legs. I do not remember giving birth, but I remember her handing me a baby boy as I was lying on the floor. He and I bonded as he wrapped his tiny fingers around my index finger. Sue bent down and took him from my loving arms. I thought, what are you going to do with my baby? What are you going to do with him? Of course, I said nothing out loud for fear of Sue's retaliation. I watched her backside as she walked away. I was so worried about my baby. What is she going to do with him? Mama Sue made it to the kitchen's counter to the right of the sink. I heard a door open, which I knew contained silverware. I did not expect to see what I was seeing. Sue! Mama Sue has a knife. Her arm reached upwards in a stabbing position. I saw the glistening in the light. Oh my God, please help me. No! As I watched the knife lower down to the direction of my baby. Then another blackout. I did not know how I got my frail, weak child's body or how long it took me to get up, but I made it to the side door, which was by the carport. I watched Sue as she had a blue baby blanket and something all bundled up. Is she throwing my baby on the fire after she stabbed him? Why couldn't I protect my baby? I'm such a bad mom. Why didn't I remember this? I just want to die. Dr. Kemp gently asked, do you have any proof? I said, no. Wait, I sort of do. I'm so baffled. How could this happen? I told Dr. Kemp, I remember when I was pregnant with my first son while married. The nurse said I had a baby before. What did I do with it? I thought she was crazy. I thought I would remember if I had a baby before. She even called the police, who referred me told the police to come to the health department to question me. I told the police I did not have a baby before, of course, because I didn't remember it, right? I called my husband to come to pick me up and tell the police I did not have a baby before. Jeffrey left work to come and get me away from this situation, as he didn't know about a baby either. Dr. Jack Camp replied, there's your proof. A doctor knows if a woman had a baby before. I won't call the police since there's no birth certificate for him. However, you could go to jail if your stepmom denies and puts the blame on you. It would be as she said, you said. So I'm protecting you from you going to jail for something that she did. The baby won't get no justice. I will name him John Paul Clark after my deceased brother. Why did this happen? Why couldn't I protect my baby? It's all my fault. I want to die. I am no good. I hate myself. Why? And that was my thoughts in therapy, and that's what I was saying when I went through that. And it was time for me to go home. And he said, we'll see you next week. What a time to say, okay, the hour's over or the 30 minutes is over, and you're thinking now I'm suicidal, now I want to die. Oh my gosh. And I did go home, and I did, regrettably, I kept attempting suicide. It was so much to bear, y'all. It was so much to bear. But I'm glad I finally through that. I'm finally glad that no, but at times it still does hurt. Okay, I'm not going to kid you. It does. That's something that's hard to get over. Okay. I also seen somebody before. I seen that doctor, and her name was Carolyn, and she was pretty nice. She would take me places. We'd go shopping together. We'd go to restaurants together because she knew what that old therapist Saber had done. So she tried to help me out with agoraphobia more to get out and go places. So that's how she helped me. But the problem with her, she was really good at therapy, but I had one main problem why I didn't want to see her no more. I heard her tell a lady that when we go to the mall, that she'll pick her up this certain decor, right? Christmas decor. And she did pick up a lot, and then she gave me one. I didn't have to have one, right? And so we go back to the office, and she said, "Sorry, I didn't get you one." Um, and I was telling her, well, in private, I went in there and I said to my therapist, I said, "But you gave me one. Why couldn't you give her the one that you gave me. I didn't really want it, and you promised her you would pick it up, right?" And I said, "Do you do that to me also? Do you lie to me?" She said, "Well, yeah, I lie sometimes. I don't want to tell the truth. I don't want you to." I said, "So you just lie to me just to make me feel better instead of lie to me to help me get better?" She said, "Yeah, I like to help you when you don't get upset." Or um, I said, "So if I was bad off, and I would rather somebody be honest to me and tell me that this is wrong, right? I would rather you be honest with me. I don't want to go to therapy if I know now you're going to be lying to me just to make me feel better, right?" And I said, "Sorry, I cannot come back," right? You see right there, that guy said even said that you block on your little toy is only evidence you have not the forgiveness. You block on my toy, whatever. That's crazy. But anyway, after Dr. Camp, he had a, and I had to go start seeing his associate. And I really loved Dr. Camp. He would say little things like, "Well, me and my family's fixing to go to Disneyland, and I wish that you could go with us." He said, "We like it when we go to Tweedledee and Tweedledee Street." He said, "That's our favorite place to stay when we go to Disney World." And I always laughed about that, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And then he had an associate that started seeing me, and his name was Dr. Deb, and he was of Indian nationality. And one time when uh, I put myself in the psych unit because I was feeling suicidal, or the fact that I couldn't sleep. It was like 8 days straight where one day I only had 30 minutes sleep, and that was all I had for 8 days straight. So I was not thinking rational. Um, I was even thinking that Tylenol could help me to sleep. And so every 30 minutes to an hour, I would put another Tylenol in my mouth and stuff. So I had to have my stomach pumped and everything. And I thought, I got to get some sleep. I need some help. I need some medication or something to help me to sleep because I cannot sleep. I need it bad, right? So I put myself in that hospital. And then I said, this one Dr. Deb came in there and he goes, I asked him, I said, "Do you believe in dissociation? Do you believe in different personalities, all that kind of stuff?" And he goes, all of a sudden he got right in my face and it scared the heck out of me. And he yelled in my face, "Do you believe in Hinduism?" And he was yelling at my face, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's not very professional of a psychiatrist to do, screaming in my face that I believe in Hinduism, you know. And I told him, I said, "I believe it exists, but that don't mean I'm Hindu or whatever, you know." And he got really angry at me for saying that, I'm not Hindu, you know. So it really angered him about that too. Um, and then I saw a therapist, and her name was Laura May. This was later when we started separating, and then I moved to away from my husband. I went to an abused women's shelter, and then I got my own apartment. But I would go back to Huntsville, and we would have like marital therapy, and was trying to work out. And he told her, said, "I would do anything to get our marriage working back, I'd do anything for her." And I said, "Well, since you work all, today, every day, except for Saturday and Sunday, and since you go to church on Sundays, how about we meet up Saturday at a common place, in a public place, and we talk?" He said, "I'd rather be fishing." for just got through telling that he would be doing anything, he'll do anything to work out the relationship. And he told her, I'd rather be fishing. So he got up and he had to go back to work because this was his lunch hour. And so Laura, Miss Laura had said, well, there ain't nothing I could do. That shows that he is uncooperative. That shows where his mindset is. He says one thing and he does another. He's not meaning what he actually says a lot of times. I said, well, that's true. There was another therapist I was seen. She was Katie, and I loved going to that place. I would see the sign agape. Have y'all ever seen agape? And agape means love, Christian love. And I remember at a different church years ago where they were asking us in Sunday school to describe what agape was. And I raised my hand. I said, it's love. He said, it's much more than that. And I said, I gave a little spiel on a little bit of what the name was. And it kind of hurt my feelings, but he was actually right. And he said, there's no word in the English dictionary to represent how big and vast that agape love is. He said, so there's no really good enough explanation saying what agape love is. There's no word in the English language that's that descriptive of that love. Okay. And in here, when I go to talk about um, her, she really had helped out a lot. And I want to go to this point right here. I realized and had seen it worded in the Bible in Ephesians 5:22 through 33. Why submit to your husbands and watch yourself unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. These verses were self explanatory. We often hear people say, we know who wears the pants in the family. When Jeffrey and I were married, I didn't believe in divorce. It took a Christian neighbor sitting down and having the Bible studies with me. So you go on further down and you read the other parts where how the husband's supposed to care the wife and such as, right? So bad therapy versus good therapy. With therapy, there are ups and there's downs, okay? Um, Stating the different therapy sessions and the different things, when memories of trauma are blanketed and hidden in my mind, I consider that below any emotional points because I do not know and understand the depths of the hidden devastation. So let me try to explain that with you to y'all, okay? Point A is when the memories of trauma were surfacing. I try to cope with them. Point B, they bother me so horrendously that it's hard to function. I need professional help. Point C, I find a therapist to discuss them. Point D, I try to find out if the memories of trauma are false memory or if they really happened. Point E is I accept that the memories of trauma happened. Point E, I sign a contract, a no self harm contract. Point G, I try to understand the conflict between the past memories of trauma and my present psycho emotional state. Point H, I try to come to terms with these memories of trauma, so horrible as they are, but it seems as if I'm looking through dark shades. I do not see a light at the end of the tunnel. That's when I initially wrote the first one. Hey there, Jackie. It's so good to see you. Miss you, girl. Thanks for coming in. So then what helped me with therapy a lot of times also is going through and reading, writing poems and you could tell as a teenager, I really wanted to be accepted and I knew there were other people that wanted to be accepted too. So, um, one of the poems I wrote, blue. If you ever feel blue and don't know what to do, just tell a friend or two. If you're ever in trouble and don't want it to double, just tell a friend and it will crumble. If you're ever not sure, I know the cure. Just be my friend and I'll be yours. Okay, so also when I was going through therapy, I want to show y'all too. Let me show on the screen. Sorry. I love you, sister. There's my book right here at Amazon. I want to tell people, please don't get that Shattered Innocence because it don't have some of the important things. This is the same book basically with more information in it. Okay, it's got more. It talks about my son being murdered. It talks more into where I was cut. You know, when my daddy cut me in. It's got other things in there. It's got some help, self help at the back of the book as well. There's some different things. And in Born to Live in Hell version 2.0, Darlene J. Clark courageously unveils the haunting realities of her tumultuous childhood, marked by abuse, betrayal, and unimaginable hardship. This raw and flinching memoir not only recounts the painful moments of her past, but serves as a beacon of hope and resilience for those who have suffered in silence. Through her story, Darlene calls for understanding, awareness, and the courage to stand up against abuse, reminding us all that survival is not only possible, it's a triumph. For those seeking to tell us strength and adversity, Born and Live in Hell will inspire and move you deeply. Okay. Let me go ahead and say a couple other therapy things, therapists, before I go on to talk about. Okay, then after my divorce, I had to go. I moved to another place, and I went to the mental health center. Okay, after I had uncovered a lot of that devastation, I knew about the child pornography, but I did not know about the sex trafficking. That fit in, like especially, let's see, just about 2, 3 years ago. That's it. The trafficking. You know, I knew that my mom showed me a thing, but I did not contain it to child trafficking right then and there. But the more I realized and understood what trafficking was, it helped pertain it to that. But then meeting another friend who was associated with some of the friends that were some of the acquaintance and with friends of friends that weren't my friends, but they were all in this together. The Greenhalls, that state trooper, he was affiliated with the trafficking ring, and I did not know that, but I found that out. Okay, um, but the therapist that saw me, and I was so mad at her. I disliked her immensely because she told me that dad never sexually abused me, that I wanted him to, that I lusted and wanted my daddy to rape me, that I wanted it, that it never happened. And I said, well, I've got the medical evidence behind it. You know, I've got the injuries. I had to have surgery and all that kind of stuff. It's directly, you know, it's proof out there, right? But she said, no, you just wanted it to happen. I was so mad because I had it covered up for so many years, right, about this happening. And I had uncovered it. And now she's telling me that I'm lying. Then they put me on 6 different kind of medications because they were calling me a liar. And so they wanted to put me as, you know, really making me worse where I would end up institutionalized, right? I had an allergic reaction to the medications, and I ended up having to go to the hospital. And they said, "Oh, you got scabies," and I didn't have scabies; it was an allergic reaction. Next morning, I made it to my doctor's office. My tongue would not even go back in my mouth. Yeah, she is sick. My tongue would not even go back in my mouth. It was I was really on death's bed. Okay, my face was swollen, my tongue was sticking out of my mouth. I was really bad off. And she said, the doctor, nurse practitioner came in there to see another friend that was waiting in the waiting room. She turned around and saw me. Get her back there. She's about dead. Get her back there now. So they put me back there, and I could not believe that she even tried to call the insurance company where they could get me an ambulance to take me to the hospital. They refused to get me care to have me shipped to the hospital to get the aid because while I was basically dying because of allergic reaction. So she kept me in her office working on me for 3 hours to get me better, and I thank her for that, for treating me. So then I had to, of course, go back to the mental health center, and I told her that I had an allergic reaction. No, you didn't. You just didn't want to take the medication. So they said, we're going to stop your check if you do not take your medication. So I was forced by the government to take this medicine, okay? I was forced to. So here I was, and there I was about dead again, right? So I go back to my doctor knowing that she's going to take care of me and the doctor and the hospital won't, right? So I went back to her, and she ended up contacting the the mental health, the Social Security office, whatever, Medicaid and all that. And she said, "Well, I'm going to get a therapist in my office that's going to see you, and they'll adhere to that." And I'm showing them and proving to them that you are deathly allergic to this medicine. So had she not stepped up, I would probably be dead today because they were trying to enforce that I take the medicine on their ideology, saying that I had to have it, that I just didn't want to take the medicine. And yet the proof, even with the blood workup, even though she was showing them the blood workup, showing that I was allergic to it, and yet they were still forcing me to take something that was killing me. So watch out for what therapists. If you got a therapist that don't believe you, please don't give up. Look for a therapist who will believe you. Okay, well, look for one that does care. So this should explain, and I'll read over this explanation so that y'all can better understand something too. Right? I wrote this poem years ago. I need to know. I need to know if all is okay, and it's in my book too, y'all. Tired of this never ending battle, never knowing which direction, from here or there. Scattered like seeds in the wind, shattered like a broken window pane. Never ending, bleeding, turning, yearning. Always a response of no. Does who is responsible feel remorse? Oh, but of course, no remorse. I need to know they feel remorse. I need to know and feel understanding, sympathy, love, and acceptance. This is how I felt way back then, okay? So now I've got a reference to how I felt back then and explaining it to basically how I feel today. So you can see how the growth that I had, okay? I Need to Know was written around 1998. I was still married and having horrendous flashbacks. Before reading on, please take a moment to reread and think and try to understand the emotional concepts in the lyrics. I need to know if all is okay. Tired of this never ending battle. Years ago, when I wrote this, I did not feel all was okay because I did not want to struggle to get better if the end of the tunnel was more darkness, more cruelty, more pain. I am happy how I struggled and did not give up. I'm glad God didn't let me give up. I kept giving up, though. There were some good times and some bad times. That is a part of life. It is well worth seeing it from a healthy healing standpoint than through the dark shades I previously used. If someone thinks to tell someone who is going through something similar to stop being so negative, don't say that. Just be there for the person. Let them express themselves. Do not question, tell them things you would have done if you did not live their life. It was not you who learned it was not okay to have your own thoughts and ideas. Some who are reading this understand what I'm saying because they endured it. It is hard hearing others say they would have done this or that. They had no clue. It does not help the person dealing with the memories of trauma. In fact, it is infuriating and belittling. It tells the survivor they should have done something differently when in fact they did the best they could during the trauma. Yet, they survived. That is the number one thing. Never knowing which direction from here or there. I never knew which direction to go for help. Only a few were skilled enough to truly help. The ones who were not skilled enough told me such atrocities as, "You were never sexually abused. You wanted your dad to have sex with you, but it never happened. You lied about your past," etc. Boy, all this ticked me off. I had it blocked for so many years. When it reared its ugly head, I was devastated to say the least. I did not know how to deal with such traumatic sexual abuse, these memories of trauma. There was no way I was about to push the memories down and seal them, as well as lie to myself by denying it. It was unnerving when I realized the truth. Finding a therapist who listened and seemed to understand without judges is what I deem as a truly skilled therapist, thoughtful and compassionate. Scattered like seeds in the wind, shattered like a broken window pane. I had so many mixed emotions at the time for being abused in the past and dealing with the present abuse I endured. That is why I was incapable of seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. The here and now was abuse as well. It was a hurricane of internal emotions. I felt I can be loved. I am worthy of being loved. To I can't be loved. I'm not good enough to be loved. I'm not worthy of love. All of these feelings at the same time? What a conflict of emotions. It was all because I was not loved. My husband did not console me when I cried. Often these resounding words, shut up, always told to shut up. Even as a child, I knew children were to be seen and not heard. I felt it was never ending. But it does end. I do not feel the daily pain of abuse, whether it's past or present, though I do feel the pain often. Sometimes it is like a slap in the face. The old conflicts with the new. I am elated that the pain has dissipated tremendously. I used to feel I was alone and no one cared. At times I felt the loneliness, but now I can see that others care. There are a lot of people who do not know me who care. Who cares, you know? It's a human nature. Good people generally care. Shattered like a broken window pane, never ending bleeding, turning, yearning. Always a response of no. Does who is responsible feel remorse? But of course, no remorse. At the time I wrote the above poem, I felt like I wanted the abusers to feel remorse for the pain they inflicted. In the healing, I accept the fact I do not need to feel their remorse. I feel bad for the perpetrators and pray they get their hearts right with God. I left the bad, negative, abusive family and friends behind. I acknowledge that abusers in general deny they ever did any heinous acts towards the victim. They usually blame the victim, saying things such as, they're crazy, they like being hit, they make things up, they hurt me instead. If you try to get an apology, usually you will not acquire one. You will leave hurt and angry because they blame you instead of accepting their faults. Pray for them. I had to stop blaming myself. Boy, was that tough. I had accepted the blame for many years. I had always believed I deserved all the bad abuse that happened. I used to believe everyone was treated that way. I wondered why God would put us all on this earth just to receive beatings, abuses, etc., with no love. I am happy to know I was wrong. To note, punishment is one thing, but cruelty and abuse are entirely different. Parents are to rear their children in the ways of the Lord. I learned things that happened to me because of man's free will. I need to know they feel remorse. I need to know and feel understanding, sympathy, love, and acceptance. From accepting all of this, I now feel understanding and empathy instead of sympathy, love, and acceptance. I do not need sympathy anymore. I need understanding just so others will help the abused and the downtrodden. Those very people dealing with memories of trauma. Learn to not judge by what you believe when you hear someone's story. In fact, this is when I had written this one thing, I was in a dissociation group, okay, and different people shared some of their feelings and stuff, and so I wrote this called "Hey, Mr. L, it's so good to see you. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Thanks for your encouragement the last few days." Regina's triumph, I had to act like I was someone else just to cope. Y'all know that they had me in the child pornography, so I had to be Candy and such, right? Oh no, they got in trouble. No, I hope they didn't block you. Are you in there, Mr. L? Not my God said, got mad at you saying spamming emotes. I hope you're still here. Okay. I had to act like I was someone else just to cope. I started to learn I could be myself and it was okay. If someone didn't like me for me, it was their problem, not mine. So here's how it goes. There was a family that appeared to the outside world as poor. Soon to be arriving at the Duncton family was the unexpected and unwanted child, Regina Diane Duncton. She came prematurely with the father claiming that the mother had fallen. The truth was that they wanted to be rid of this child. It didn't take Regina long to realize not to cry when she needed anything. She learned to be silent. When Regina turned 2 years old, she saw a lot of hearts left on a table by one of her sisters. Regina knew that hearts meant to love, something that she needed since she came into this world. Regina aged, and every year on Valentine's Day she saw the hearts and felt the need to be held. She felt the need to be told she was loved. She desired to be told she was a good girl. Regina found 8 sticker hearts. She decided to make wishes on them. With the first heart, she wished that her mother loved her. On the second heart, she wished that her father loved her. On the third heart, she wished that her brothers and sisters loved her. The fourth heart was a wish that someone, anyone, would love her. The fifth heart was a wish that she wouldn't be hungry anymore. Her sixth heart was a wish that she wouldn't be hit or yelled at anymore. She decided to save the 2 other hearts for later. Regina grew up and came upon the remaining hearts one day. She wondered, where did these come from? This seemed so childish to keep. As Regina tried to discard the remaining hearts, she found a sense of reluctancy. She couldn't understand it. It just seemed like bits of paper. Paper? Why can't I throw these away? Regina started to have terrible dreams. It was a little girl named Gigi talking to her. The little girl reminded her of herself when she was little. The horrendous dreams came frequently. The dreams didn't make any sense to her, so she decided to go see a psychiatrist. He had diagnosed her with DID, dissociative identity disorder, PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder, and depression. The psychiatrist gave Regina the name of a psychologist who specialized in these fields. Yeah, he told you to get off the track, didn't he? Uh-oh. He said, get off my back is what. Yeah, you told him off, didn't you? I like that, Mr. L. You said, I like that. I'm sorry, get off. Yeah, tell him like it is, Mr. L. So she was a clinical psychologist. The psychologist gave Regina some titles of some books to read so Regina could understand her condition. Regina thought she had a happy childhood. She soon realized that wasn't true at all. When Regina was little, she was smart with a bright imagination. With the pain she felt, Regina couldn't take the pain alone. So out of Regina developed another person who helped her to cope. Regina knew nothing of this happened. Things were difficult for Gigi. She couldn't handle it alone. She just needed a bigger person who could do things that only big girls could do. It came to help her Miss Love. And y'all know what big help the big girls could do, the sexual, right? The three parts of Regina were Regina, the body or core, Gigi, who took on the lot of the abuse, who took a lot of the abuse, and Miss Love, who took on the difficult tasks that were expected of Regina. Regina only knew of herself, but she had to admit that she had blackouts and lit time lapses. The books made sense. People would call Regina other names. Regina would just smile at them and walk on by. Gigi and Miss Love told the therapist the story behind the hearts. The therapist had an idea. She told the different personalities to tell the hearts the stories, to share the pain, to get the feelings out, then throw the hearts away. These stories don't bleed if you yell, scream, or cry. These hearts can take it. The therapist's idea worked, although it took time. The abuse didn't happen overnight, so the healing wouldn't happen overnight either. Soon the three personalities became one adequate, loving person. Today, the new Regina always takes sticker hearts wherever she goes. She approaches people with a friendly hello, asking if they might have one of her hearts. She tells them with a smile, "This is to remind you that someone cares." Regina started using her past to help others who have been abused and traumatized. She wanted to get the word out that you can overcome the abuse, to never give up, that they are true survivors. Do not see yourself as weak or no good. See yourself as a strong person you truly are. And then I got to add this the with Katie. That's this therapist Katie. She was so great. So being a person with DID does not make anyone with this disorder crazy. On the contrary, being crazy is a coping strategy to help me and others cope with all the traumatic circumstances people outside ourselves have caused. To the outside world, yes, we appear crazy. If it wasn't for this mechanism, we probably wouldn't have survived this long. People in today's world accept so much drugs, sexual promiscuity, abortion, etc. People are not educated enough to understand or even try to understand this phenomenon. They are frightened to be around any such person. One would believe we had leprosy or was contagious. People's refusals or denials of its existence sometimes send us back to a place where we were growing up, back to people denying the abuse happened to us, back to the abusers denying they ever did the kind of actions, back to the feeling ashamed, back to feeling unloved, back to feeling unaccepted, back to feeling abandoned. I had to realize the world does not revolve around the outside world's approval or disapproval. Although it is very helpful for a friend, family member, doctor, and therapist to believe us, we acknowledge that we feel pain, torment, frustrations, and denials. Katie, my therapist, who was skilled in DID and multiple personality disorder, has told me innumerable times. If a person has cancer, would they require help? If a person has a broken leg, would they need a leg to be fixed? I bet Katie grew tired of my conversations. Yes, buts. Yes, but it isn't the same as cancer. That they are both diseases people struggle with to get better. Yes, but I don't have anything broken. He said, you are broken up into so many pieces in your mind because of the trauma you endured. Yes, but there's too much to deal with. I can't handle it. You made it this far, kiddo. You made it through the bad stuff. You're a survivor. Yes, but it hurts to feel the pain. He said, I know it hurts. It gets better with time. After all, you did not get this way overnight. You told me the abuse was an everyday thing. Yes, it hurts, but you are dealing with it. Yes, but will it get better? Katie assured me things get rough at first because things start resurfacing. Then the memories get a little tougher. It is like taking steps. You start at the bottom, your destination is at the top of the stairs. It gets frightening to find out what was done to you, parts of you. Take one step at a time. Sometimes it gets scary and I will take a step backward. I usually get upset at myself whenever that happens. Now I realize if that's where I am, to accept it at the moment. Yet I had to ask her, yes, but will I get be like everybody else in the world, just one person? Katie warmly replied, in some ways you'll be better because you will not have a closed mind. It will be your choice whether to integrate or not. You will learn strategies that will help the others to come when needed instead of being pushed out. Sometimes that is what happened to me. We, personalities, sometimes got pushed out. When our bodies got tense, no one wanted to face the problems, memories, or flashbacks. All tried to hide within to get to safety, so one personality would get pushed out. I wrote this for people to better understand some things people as MPD, DID goes through. I want to help people who are generally interested in learning more about this phenomenon. This is definitely not for laughs. We need thoughtfulness, empathy, consideration, and compassion. We don't need harsh words because we have been hurt enough. We are still trying to heal from the pain and memories as they come. Kindness and thoughtfulness goes a long way. Does anybody got any kind of questions if they would like to? And another thing, just put them in the questions. I'll be glad to answer. There's innocence lost. This is what really got me where I knew I had to do the book, and every time I gave up writing a book, uh, something else happened again. So I was talking to an online friend, Cowboy Bill, one night when we got a phone call from his best friend who was a sheriff. He was living in Texas at the time, so this happened in Texas. And I remember when Yahoo Messenger was out, that's where we were talking. Cowboy Bill and I were discussing writing my book when the phone rang. I was losing hope on ever getting it done. Cowboy Bill was trying to convince me it needed to be done, but when he came back, he was upset. Cowboy Bill said, "My friend, who is a sheriff, just told me some horrible news. Darlene, you must get your book written. This proves it." I replied, "Why? What happened?" Cowboy said, "A 4-year-old little girl was just murdered by her mom's boyfriend. He was usually a good man, but over the past few months he started using drugs. The man was fighting with the girl's mom. The little girl didn't like it, so she went to the man and started tugging on his shirt while asking him to please stop fighting. The man backhanded the 4-year-old girl, which sent her 4-year-old body flying through the air like a rag doll. She didn't make it. She died." I couldn't believe my ears. I sadly stated, "Yes, abuse happens too often. I do need to tell my story. Maybe my story might help someone. I need to leave right now. I am unable to talk because of this incident. We will talk later." That's what I told him. I was beyond words for the loss of this precious soul, not from someone who has just heard her story, but for someone who has seen and been abused as well. I am a survivor. If you know of someone using drugs around children, please call for help. You may be their only voice. If you see or suspect someone abusing another, whether it be an adult or a child, do not turn your back. Help them. You may be saving his or her life. We do not need to turn our backs or turn a blind eye when we see or suspect something. Nothing was done to anyone who ever harmed me. I was portrayed as a bad one, a liar, an attention seeker, and unbelievable. I don't talk about this for spite. I talk about my life because abuse happens too often. No one deserves abuse or has a right to abuse others. So if more people would help when they see something by reporting it, more people may be less likely to hurt others. Report it. Don't let someone become a statistic. A friend said, "This little girl is with God." Do you know how infuriating that statement affects me? It is like disregarding this child's life, as if her life never mattered as a living spirit. The friend had good intentions, but I was angry that this happened. I didn't want to feel better about it. It isn't that easy to just get over it. I think more people should speak up and help ones they know or sense are being abused. Better safe than sorry. Better live than die. Yes, she is with God, but don't disregard the problem. Don't avoid it. Don't try to act like it's all better now when it should not be condoned. We are all humans and we need to help each other, treasuring, respecting, compassionate, and grateful for one another. Remember, it is up to us to care. We might be the victim's only voice. We might be their only chance to get away from it. The same day I wrote this, there was an Amber Alert for a 5-year-old boy. The mother claims that when she went to the gas station, someone took her car. This was in the same county that I resided at the moment. The next day, we found out it was all a hoax. The hoax was a cover up for a serious crime. The last time someone could confirm that the little 5-year-old boy was still alive was Friday at school. Yes, the mother of the boy and the boyfriend have been arrested. The boyfriend murdered the little boy supposedly for bringing home a bad report card. He died due to blunt force trauma to his abdomen and his back. The mother went to a different county and declared publicly the hoax of the stolen car with her 5-year-old son in it. 45 seconds into the 911 call was the first time she mentioned her little boy was in the car she reported as stolen. Can you believe it? She waited 45 minutes to say that he was in the car because she wanted to give the car time enough for it to go into hiding so that they could hide the boy's body, okay? Girl, this mother was in jail for hampering the investigation into the murder of her son. The boyfriend had been in jail different times for charges like harassment, drugs, and robbery. He never had to spend the time in the penitentiary because he was given probation after he had written to the judge asking for a pardon since he had a 4-year-old son he had to take care of. So he was let out of jail early for pardons to take care of the other little boy, for his boy. Not the boy that he ended up murdering, but this was earlier, okay? This was years before this little boy was even in the world. The man begged the judge for mercy, for a fresh start, for a new chance. The 5-year-old was shown no mercy. He had no chance. He had no choice. I carefully watched on TV his family members crying. I think his name was Deontay Glass. If y'all want to check out that case, please go and remind people on Deontay Glass's case. Some of y'all that are podcasters as well. At night, he would holler out, "I love you." We will miss that. He was a happy little boy, such a joy. All this is senseless. The teacher now has to explain to the students in the class what happened to the classmate. She had to explain why he would not be back at school. The kids heard the true story. Deontay died because of a bad report card. My goodness, can you imagine their horror? They might start feeling as if they would be killed as they made a felon grave. It is natural for a kid to see it this way when a child cannot understand the mother's or the boyfriend's twisted logic and reasoning. It affects so many people. It doesn't just affect the person in the family it happened to. It hit the state hard. It hit everyone who heard the story. I know it hurts others who have been abused. It touched so many hearts. It's senseless. I wonder if the boy ever had bruises before and people stood back doing nothing. Now I always wonder, and this is just one of thousands of cases every year. And I wrote this poem in 2021. I felt like God wanted me to write this. So tears for the children lost, tears for the unprotected, sadness for innocence lost, joy for their beating hearts, joy for their breaths of life, sorrow and mourning the loss of life, sorrow and mourning for the pain they felt, sad they died too young, tears, sorry, empathy, and anger at the despicable people responsible. So some of y'all I had told about the memory that I had in November, December. I was having a tough time, and I've been going through a depression about that. Seeing those dead kids hanging up on hangers, wrapped in plastic, and having that memory. And I was a little bitty girl when I saw it, and then the flashback, occurred November, December, and it's kind of hard getting that out of my head. So I went to my family doctor day before yesterday and told him I needed help. I needed to start going to therapy again. Just, I can't get the picture of those kids out of my head. Um, so when you see that many kids killed at one time and hanging up, it's devastating. Y'all remember to be a voice. I will be beginning therapy. They're supposed to contact me back, the therapist's place. Yeah, I'll be praying for me to regain my strength. And I'm laying back from doing so many shows, just because back right now, I've got to heal on some things myself at the moment, okay? So y'all, please pray for me. And I know I'm having to do these when I feel I'm able to. So when y'all see me on here, I'm doing a little bit better. I might get angry, but I think we all need to show that we're angry. I can't just get on here and say a story about these kids being victimized and not get angry, right? There'd be something terribly wrong with me if I didn't show any anger at the people who harmed these kids. There'd be something wrong with that, especially since I endured that. And we as people, we need to be angry about that so we don't close the door If anybody wants up in the box, I'm going to go ahead and put the link up if anybody wants to say anything. Welcoming you to come up here, ask or whatever. Just put the link here. So, Mr. L, I'd like to talk to you later too. More that inspiration's going to be coming our ways, and in a way that was good that guy came in and said the things he said because we know that the devil wants to try to squash us from telling the truth. So when that guy came in and started accusing me of not being of God, oh man, he just exposed himself, right? He just exposed himself of not being of God. He come in here when I feel like that God's got me on this mission to try to help and get the word out. He comes and says that I'm not of God, you know. Judge not, let you be not judged. For what measure ye judge will be judged unto you, mister. He started calling me Muslim and all that, It's so much derogatory hate out there. But we ain't gonna give him another ounce of thought because he's not worth it. Y'all remember to be a voice for the voiceless. I hope that my what I've said today will help out someone. I hope that y'all pass this on. And if y'all need to talk to me, y'all know how to get in touch with me. Love and appreciate each one of y'all. And I'll say God bless to you. Thank y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day and bliss. Do something that you enjoy doing, whether it's a walk, something you haven't done in a long time. Appreciate your people around you. Think twice before you react in anger. Like, would I want to be talked to this way? If you don't want to be talked to that way or treated that way, don't treat a child or another person that way either, okay? Learn to bite your tongue and have the love coming off your tongue, the kindness, the words, the gratitude. Thank you so much, and God bless y'all.